Hey, man, what's good, listeners? Hey, I just want to let you guys know that this episode will feature two special guests. Well, unfortunately, M-Eezy's under the weather, and K-Mart couldn't make it because he's at work. So you guys know how that goes. And no further ado, let's go ahead and start the show.
SoundCloud music.
Hey, hey, hey.
We're in the studio.
We're back.
Oh, and we're back in the studio. It's been a while, Shotty. Miss you, my guy.
What up? What up? What up?
Well, man, yeah, man, let me start it off. All right. And welcome back to the place where nothing is safe. This is a bonus episode, but we're going to number it 72 of the Jig Is Up podcast. You know me, I'm your host. Yo, it's Marco, and I'm with.
It's your girl, Miss Nessa, a.k.a. Blaze Your Mommy.
And we have two special guests with us. You know, we have Mr. Ian Moreland and Victor Rice, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about themselves before I give them a backstory how I met both of these gentlemen. So, but beforehand, however you listen to this podcast, via Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, YouTube, TuneIn, and any other podcast streaming services, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and rate and review. Most importantly, share. Because sharing is caring. You know what I mean? So, man, you know, we're going to start off with my man Victor out here, man.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you guys doing?
We're good, man. What's good?
Man, fresh off work,
Oh, we know how that is, man.
right. Trying to rush over here. Sorry for being late. But, I guess you got us on here to talk about a little urban gardening.
Yes, exactly.
I'm a father of four, Of course, we all know each other from high school.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for a little while, going back to kind of before high school with my mom and a little bit younger. Born and raised in San Diego.
Southeast to be specific, right?
Right. Morris High, Morris Tigers, class of 03. You got to put that out there. All right.
What's the name of our school?
Morris High.
Whatever.
Oh, man. So what's up with you, Ian? Everybody know you.
I don't know you.
I don't know how. I don't know why that's a thing. It's been a cool day. I just came out of a meeting called there's a group of brothers that get together once a month called We Will Rise, and we're just kind of trying to figure out how to bridge some of the gaps in the Black community as men and what we can do our part. So right now it's a new group, and we've kind of just learning each other and then just addressing different topics so that we all can come to a general consensus of how we view things, so then we can move forward as to what we want to do in our community. So that's where I was before I got here. As far as urban gardening goes, on a larger scale, it's only been like 2 years, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been growing things in pots and stuff for about 4 or 5 years. I kind of discovered the gift on accident, really. I just would be cooking in the house. I used to do a lot of cooking all the time, and all the fresh produce and stuff, I would just throw it in these pots, and stuff would always grow. Like every time, whatever I put in the pot, whether it was a bell peppers or avocado seeds, tomato seeds, things would just start coming out, and I would watch. And for me, actually, as a kid, I was really into insects. That's my thing. So I started noticing that at different stages in plant life, you have different bugs. So that's really how I got into gardening.
So you
just
the game found you.
Yeah, that was on some
Game chose
real
you.
black nerd stuff. I'm in the looking at bugs this big, that kind of thing. These little bugs.
Hey,
and
man,
then,
we're all nerds about something. We're all
For
nerds
real.
about something.
So yeah.
Man, I just want to get into a little backstory, man. How I met. First of all, because I met Victor first. I met Victor back in Canto Elementary.
Yes, sir.
Our first,
Dang.
our first meeting was because we were just being some knuckleheads. We had a little discourse. We had a little fisticuffs. But after that, we were cool. And then, fast forward, I ended up seeing him, in Alba. We were some knuckleheads still.
Oh, you did go to Alba. That's
Yes.
right.
Did go to
we
Alba.
We were some knuckleheads.
We were some knuckleheads.
Definitely.
But the thing about Victor, Victor's a smart dude. This dude
Right.
likes reading books and stuff like that. I remember he told me, one of his favorite authors, Dean Koontz, and all this other stuff. I was like, man, see, everyone... everybody think because people are from Southeast and they have this
The
preconceived
stigmas.
notion, the
Yep.
stigmas about how black men are carried out here in the urban area, man, we're just regular and multifaceted, just like everyone else in this world, you know?
Right.
And that's another purpose of my podcast, to show that black people mainly are multifaceted, and there's more that meets to us than just your stigmas and your stereotypes and, you know, all these things that been portrayed for centuries and decades,
Right,
you know,
through
about
TV,
us.
media,
Yeah,
and
ever
movies.
since the birth of a nation by W.D. Griffin, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
We got to change the narrative. But and then I met Ian back in high school. I think to be specific about that, it was fifth period Spanish class.
Dang.
And this dude was like one of the most popular dudes in Morris High School. And me, I was like a fairly unknown kid. And the reason why we ended up like fucking connecting, because we like Batman.
I don't even remember. That's crazy.
Because I remember we like talk about Batman. It's like, yeah, Batman's dope. And then all of a sudden, you know,
That's
and then we'll just talk and we'll kick it during fifth period, but then we go back to our different worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I knew Ian was like a cool dude. So like after high school, we talked. I see him at City College, and you know, after that, you know, that was it. So anything, Nessa? You want to introduce yourselves to them?
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
I'm Nessa. Obviously, I didn't go to Morris, so I'm not part of the cool kids. I actually went to Mar Vista High.
Okay.
Mar Vista, not Monte Vista. And, yeah, that's about it.
That's about it.
I know we have mutual friend, Sheena.
Right,
Like,
okay.
that's the only time I've ever actually, like, seen your name pop up or whatever, so. But, yeah. And then Victor is my first time meeting and seeing you, so.
So, man, tell us about urban gardening. How you guys want to explain it to the world out there who don't know anything about it? What would you say about it?
You want to start again?
What would I say about it?
That comes to mind about it.
For me, I mean, it's relaxing, honestly, and it's kind of funny. I haven't spent as much time studying urban gardening as I feel like people think that I have. I really just grab seeds that I like, throw them in the ground, and you know, as things grow, I pick up books to kind of learn as it happens. I don't really spend a lot of time researching like before I pick something I want to grow, other than that maybe if I just heard about it. But it's not as complicated as I feel like people think. It's just like, oh, I don't have the time. I'm like, if you're sitting around your house at any point in the day, you have some time.
Right,
to
definitely.
put something in a pot, put some seeds in the ground, put some dirt in there, pour some water on it every couple of days until something pops up. You know, find a good space and some sun or something like that. Start small. You know, I always tell people if they want to feel confident about growing something, do green onions. It's probably the easiest thing you can
Green
grow.
onions.
You can literally go to the store, use them for a meal, save that bottom half inch, 2 inches of the white part of the grain with the roots on it, stick it in a water bottle or a cup of water, put it in the sun, about a half inch of water, and then at the end of the week, it'll have grown 1.5 inches, 2 inches.
Oh, wow.
Which is already like,
That
oh man,
fast?
look what I've done, and you can hold it right there in your hand. You can watch it grow. Like I would do it with the kids at my job. We would always talk about gardening. Oh, let's do this. We'd get some plastic cups, put the green onions in there. By the end of the week, the green onion would be like 6 inches tall.
Wow.
Yeah, quick. And then they're like, now they're excited. Now they really want to, what else can I do? And then we can kind of work our way up into something else, you know?
So you think that like works wonders for like children and their confidence and their self-esteem, just knowing that they're able to grow something? Because I think that's kind of empowering in a sense, you know, like you're
Absolutely.
able to plant a seed, grow it, use it, and then reuse it again.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had the same green onions in this pot, one particular pot, for about 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. I never pull them out the ground. I just cut the tops off. I use the green part, and so I just cut those off because you know it's an onion, so it has layers. So each green strand that you see is a layer of that onion. So I just cut those off, and the onion continues to grow. So I have no idea what's underground. I've never taken them out.
Oh, wow.
But I have green onions. I've had them for like a couple of years. Breakfast, lunch.
See, I didn't even know
whatever.
that. I didn't even know each time you cut it, it's a different layer of the onion. I didn't even know that. Damn.
So,
Wait.
so
Oh,
Vic,
sorry, go ahead.
how did you get started?
Well, I used to pull weeds and stuff from my mom back in the day. You know, get like lunch money and ice cream money, you know, stuff like that. But I really got into it by growing herb, man, growing weed.
Yeah, hey,
You know,
hey, that's what's up, man.
Yep.
that's how I really got into it. Because plants are plants, right? Every plant goes through the same type of cycle. You know, certain ones go through they make fruit later in the year, earlier in the year. Some plants don't have fruit. Some, you know, like greens and stuff like that, they don't end up making fruit, but they do grow flowers. But yeah, that's how I learned. And a friend of mine's like 2 or 3 years ago was like, yeah, you got some nice weed plants, man. What else are you growing? And I looked at him like, what do you mean? What else?
What else you
What do you
mean?
mean? What else am I growing? He was like, bro, you just can't grow herb, bro. He was like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're taking your time to grow something, you might as well grow the whole gamut. And my mom actually is the one that kind of pushed me to get started on it because she has a lot of land at her house. So
Oh, that's good.
I just got to it, man, and been doing it ever since. About 2 years now.
2 years.
Yeah.
So you guys ever thought about like mentoring? I know you did with class, but you ever thought about mentoring kids or showing your children how to grow?
Yeah, I have my kids out there with me all the time.
Oh, that's great.
All the time. So they love it. They're more into the bugs part, but they really enjoy being out there. They really enjoy the fruit part. My son, he always picks strawberries. He doesn't try to wash them off. I go organic and I don't use any pesticides, so it should be good, but you still want to wash your fruit off.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the kids love it, man. I never thought about mentoring or anything like that, but I think it'd be fun. I think it'd definitely be fun. Something I would definitely be interested in doing.
I have a quick question. Sorry. So earlier you were saying you didn't know, like, it just found you, but you said you were throwing it in a pot. Like, can you elaborate on that? Because you said you would just cook and there's like a random pot sitting there.
So,
like,
like currently I live in an apartment. But before that, I lived in my great grandfather's house in Encanto. So he had a pretty good sized property. Encanto is like the last spaces where houses have property, and so he had a really nice yard. There was orange trees, lemon trees. There's an olive tree back there. There's pine tree. Just a bunch of trees, a bunch of stuff. And so I was, just kind of upkeep in the yard because like Victor, I grew up pulling weeds in the yard, and Pops was like, "Yo, you got chores. Chores is yard work." And so, I kind of learned that way. And so when I was living there was just all these empty like pots that they had dirt in them, but there was no plants in some of them. So when I would eat, like I said, a lot of stuff, I just started throwing stuff in there because of the bugs. I told you, like seriously, on some geeked out, like I just would throw stuff in there and see what bugs would come to all these plants. And but the bugs will turn all of this. They're eating everything, which means they're secreting. I mean, I'm taking shit.
I mean, you can say it on the show.
Right. So that actually is in the gardening world, that's like gold. Like when animals take what's the word I'm looking for? Like vegetation, and they eat it and they break it down, and so that's gold. Like you can buy we call it bat guano or bat shit or earthworm. That's like expensive.
I
You
learned,
buy a bag of earthworms, it's like
I
15
learned the
bucks
word
for
guano from Ace Ventura.
Right.
I remember that.
That's how frustrating too.
Yeah, it's expensive. So anyway, that's kind of how it was. There were these pots, and I would just throw these seeds and stuff in there, and I don't even think I was initially watering them.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So you weren't really like tending to them?
Not initially. It would just come out because where the buckets were sitting, like they would get wet from me watering the rest of the yard, and just things were growing out of them. And I would kind of look. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, and I realized, oh, this is a avocado seed. I didn't really know that. So with an avocado, if you can get one to grow, it's kind of complicated to grow, I guess. But if you can get a seed to grow, every year the leaves fall off. They fall off so that when the flowers come in, because they're not very bright, it allows the bugs to see them better. So the leaves fall off, so all you see is these yellow flowers. It attracts more like butterflies and bees. I just learned this in a garden class I was sitting in. And so I probably have grown or started growing probably like 6 or 7 avocado trees, not knowing, and I thought it was dead, and I would just throw them away.
Wow.
Like I would just throw these plants out because I'm like, there's no leaves on them. Dang, I killed it. Toss it away. And then I learned just recently that that's a part of the process. The leaves fall off because it's kind of allows it to live stronger. And so the way I can tell if it's alive now is that if you go to the stem and you kind of scrape the stem, if it's still green, then it's still alive. So I would never do that. I would just toss it.
Oh, damn. We could be eating some guacamole right now.
Because
avocados be getting
Do
expensive.
you know how
sometimes
many
of the
vegans
year.
you're pissing off right now hearing this?
you don't understand, like avocado is such a large part of my diet. Like I eat them at every meal. When I learned that, I was super upset. I'm like, and the thing is with the avocado tree also is it takes about 3 to 5, maybe 7 years before it produces fruit. So looking back, I should be eating fruit now.
We should be eating avocados right now.
When I first started doing that 5-6 years ago, because I was in an apartment now. So
Reaping what you sown.
right,
Man.
I
You
could
should
have literally had trees at this point.
Mm.
And I'm like, damn.
We could be eating guacamole right
patience.
now, man.
Right. Learn the hard way about
Just-
patience. So what you guys would say was the learning curve of like getting to where you guys are when it comes to urban? You know, you said like you start off small with the onion, but like let's say if people want to move up to the big boy stuff like melons and squash and pumpkins and stuff like that. What would you say that's like?
I would say, especially with melons, space.
Yeah.
Space. Because I tried to grow watermelons early on. Because, you know, when you first start, you get this green thumb, you just buy all the seeds, right? You're like, oh, I want to grow this. I want to grow that. And you throw all these things into the ground, and you watch it grow, and you're not realizing, like, okay, I need space for these watermelons. Because watermelons, they just vine out, for one, right? And then you need air under these plants to grow. So if they're all bunched up and on top of each other, air circulation won't happen, and you'll get powdery mildew.
Oh, it's the worst.
You know, and
Powdery mildew. What is that?
What is
it's a
that?
fungus that comes actually from the dirt,
Yeah.
I believe. So when you're watering your soil, and you're watering it real hard, the dirt pops up and it gets on the plant. And if there's not enough air going through or air filtration, then it'll just mold up and it'll take over your whole plant. It'll destroy your whole plant.
Right now, we have this 2 years in a row. I did pumpkins last year. This year I wasn't actually planning to do pumpkins, but that same space, there was a few pumpkins that I'd never pulled, and so they kind of just melted into the soil. You know what I'm saying? So all the seeds that were there. So this year, with all that rain we had, when the sun hit right, all of a sudden there was just pumpkin like vines just popping out of the ground, and sure enough, like a month or two in after they finally were, I have like a couple pumpkins about. They're probably 10, 12-pound pumpkins, I would say maybe 15. But all of a sudden, the white film. I'm like, dude, here we go. And this year, it actually, because it can kind of be airborne, once it's on the plant, it's easy to spray it. You don't even know you're spreading it. Like, if I walk past the pumpkin vine, it's on my jeans. Now I go into my greens, that stuff it'll transfer.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you don't know. So you have to rinse off your tools and that kind of thing. Like to be kind of like if you have it, you have to cut those leaves off or rinse your stuff after every time
So
you
it
use
sounds like there's a lot of meticulous work that goes.
That part is with
that
the
goes
melons.
with it.
But it's pretty common. That's one of the things I had to start reading on is that most melon plants end up with the pattern because they require so much water to produce a good sized fruit that's full of water. I mean, because basically all a melon is just full of water. It's just sweet water. Like last year I did watermelon. I had a 20-pound watermelon.
Wow.
I had the best watermelon I've ever had.
Wow.
I remember I had posted pictures on my Instagram. I'm like holding it like a football. I'm like standing in I'm like, yo, get these shots.
How do you know when it's ready?
Okay, so that was tricky.
20
Because
pounds?
I did not know when the fruit was ready. That's the part I didn't know nothing about. So I actually kind of figured it out with my cantaloupe. What I've learned is most time in the stores is they usually pull them because they're traveling so far. Like a lot of these fruit come from across the country. Some depending on what the fruit is. So they pull them early.
Right.
But usually when a fruit's ready to be pulled, the vine starts to die. Watermelon, it's not a year-round fruit. Like it's a seasonal fruit. Mm-hmm. So the vines itself will die out. The plants will die and the fruit's kind of left on its own. So you'll see the vine at the end of the vine, it looks really brown. But the rest of the vine at the where the plant's at, it looks healthy still, but it's like dying. So as it dies close, then it's getting ready to be ready. And you can kind of it'll turn from green to brown at the end, right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I went to Black Expression, and you had a whole presentation on this, and you mentioned a food desert.
Okay.
So for those who don't know what a food desert is, do you guys want to elaborate on that?
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The food desert. So, I mean, the phrasing of that is just simply that usually those are urban communities where there's no fresh produce. That's basically what it means. It means if you can't walk within a mile of wherever you live to get fresh produce, you're in a food desert.
Wow.
And so, like, we're from Southeast San Diego. That's our area. Yeah. Typically, like, that's the area that in San Diego where you cannot walk. You have to get in your car, go 5-10 miles. Like, one thing I noticed recently was that Southeast San Diego literally funds the rest of the districts because we don't have the things around us that everyone else does. Like, you have to go outside of our district to get the things, and it feels like it's our stuff, like the Lemon Grove Walmart. It's not really Southeast Walmart, but people are like, that's the Walmart we go to. Right. But it's right on the edge of our community. So I feel like we spend a lot of money. We pay taxes in other communities, which is why our communities are underfunded, because our tax dollars don't go to our community. They go to everyone else because we have to go outside to get the resources.
Ain't no grocery stores in Southeast.
Right.
You know,
So.
it's just not. I mean, you got food for less.
No farmers market either, right?
No farmers market.
Well, they're starting. There's a few of those are kind of new, but that's like newer concepts. Those are like only the last couple of years, and they're not big enough to really sustain our community at this point. They're just hit and miss. And I think the biggest thing is that we have to figure out those they're around now, but there's such a shift in thinking that's going to be required because sometimes it's actually available, but we've been conditioned to eat certain things, so we don't even look for the fresh produce. Like, how often you gonna have a kid say, "Yo, I just want an apple"?
You know what's funny?
At my job. I was like, at my job they do.
Because I post pictures of my garden all the time.
Yeah, right? I see them on
and it's
on
usually
Facebook.
the same type of people that like my pictures.
Right.
But it ain't none of their homies, though. Right?
Right.
But I guarantee you, if I post some pictures of some fat buds, right, everybody will be like, "Hey,
See, what you do is you advertise the bud, and they get the munchies, and then you show them the
from the
fruit.
fruit." Right.
Right.
Like you said, it's
right
gotta
there.
be a switch in thinking, man. It definitely does. Because we're just doing everything by tradition. Nobody's even questioning why we're eating certain things. They're just meat and potatoes, and like the way we eat our food, mashed potatoes, and you got peas. Those are two starches. That makes no sense. Why do you eat them together? It shouldn't happen, right? So that's a lot of things that traditionally we've been taught to eat and the way to eat, and it's really killing us.
Yeah.
And it really is. So we really gotta rethink, like you said, man. We gotta unlearn all the stuff we did, man, and go and start from scratch.
I had a theory about like people need to alkalize their bodies more, especially out here in the Southeast, because people what they eat is so much acid base.
Definitely.
And that that causes more inflammation, diabetes, gout, anger issues, depression. All this stuff is linked toward eating acid-based foods, and that's why I feel like, man, maybe that's why dudes be set tripping, and
Right.
ready to fire off on anybody. But like if they were to eat more, watermelons, fuck it, eat more watermelons.
Yeah, like if you
eat more watermelons, eat more cucumbers,
Yeah.
eat more broccoli, more things that alkalizes your body. People be like, you know what? Man, just move along.
I feel like it's
like
kinda
you
hard
find
to-
yourself less angry. You find yourself less irritable about
You
shit
definitely
that gets
do.
under your skin. And that's why I've grown so much when I just like, you know what, I'm just gonna start alkalizing my body. Like, fuck all this acid shit. You know what I mean?
I feel like,
and I feel a lot better for me personally.
yeah. I feel like it's hard to set a trip to eating watermelon. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. Like, you're not about to eat a melon and just be like, man, let's go get these niggas. Like,
I'm about to fire off on this nigga real quick, but let me finish this watermelon.
Right.
like,
And then, why was I mad at first? You know what I mean?
It's hard to be upset after eating watermelon. I'm always happy. I got one in my fridge right now. I just like, because I don't have any that were from my garden this year yet, and so I bought one. I opened my fridge today. I'm just looking at it. I'm just like, yo. I sit in the fridge. I put it in there so I could chill for a day or two. I'm so excited. I can't wait to cut that bad boy open. I just like it when it spills over.
That would be dope. One of these days, like, kids would start slinging, like, fruit
Man, that'd be
and
dope.
vegetables.
That'd be
kind of
awesome.
like how they used to sling candy in the neighborhood. You know how that one person's, like, knock on the
Like, yo, I
door,
got these
and you got to go through the
heirlooms.
back door and get the candy and stuff like that, 50 cents a pop or something like that.
Right.
But do that with fruit, everybody would will have nutritious meals or nutritious food in their bodies, and, no harm, no foul. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they used to have a candy van where I don't know who used to run the candy van, but it was like a group of community kids would go and run to the candy man, and they would sell candy for them. If it was fruit, something like that, that'd be dope, man.
Yeah. Hey, that's an idea right there. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm alley-ooping. Y'all
Hey, that's what's up.
I don't even ask you.
Speaking of melons, if you've never had a homegrown melon, you never buy another one from the store.
It's hard.
Well,
Like,
I'm gonna need a homegrown melon. How
Oh
much? I'm willing to
I
support
can
my
bring you
folks.
some.
Right?
It might be another 30 days, maybe.
Another 30. Hey,
yeah, it's
hit me. I'll go pick it up.
Melons is like 90 days. Usually 90 days
Yeah,
to
it's
mature,
about-
right?
When
about
it's
60, 90 days,
ready,
depending on
hit
your-
me.
Yeah.
I will go. I'll show up. I'll pull up.
yeah.
Homegrown,
last year,
cucumber, not cucumbers, but what was you just talking about?
the
Not watermelons.
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe.
Oh.
My God. You can smell it through
I
the
didn't
fruit.
even like cantaloupe before
You can
I
smell
grew
it
up.
through the
Yeah.
fruit.
You
You would like it.
Man.
No, but I used to until remember that like a while ago, like there's something going on with the melons and the honeydews, like long time ago.
Yeah, I think
It was like years ago. After that, like I stopped
stopped
eating
eating
it.
last year, the melons I grew last year was kind of an accident. There was this tub so the backyard where I grew everything was actually my great grandmother's. My grandparents owned the property. My sister lives there, and so there's this cast iron tub that I think the lady that took care of my grandmother used to throw all her stuff, like a compost tub. She used to just throw stuff in there, and so I was back there one day, and I just, being a big kid, like started wetting it because it's a tub. Like put water in the tub.
Yeah.
So I soaked it, playing around, and like a couple of days later, all these plants started popping out. And I'm looking at them because now by then I had already started growing stuff. I'm like, these look like melon seedlings or saplings or whatever. So I'm like, let me just keep taking care of it. Sure enough, there was a bunch of them in there. I ended up pulling them out of the tub, sticking them in the ground somewhere else. I buried them, and then the stuff like one leaf showing so that because most of them kind of die out. If you have too much plant, then when you move it from one space to the other, a lot of times the plants will die. But if you'll bury the plant and just leave like a little piece for the sun to catch, then the rest of that plant will just become part of the root system. So I did that. I learned that from some lady at Home Depot. We were just talking, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That seems useless. But then I ended up having to use it. I'm like, dang, that was lit.
And the dope thing that you guys are doing, I always admire it because it's a survival skill.
Yeah.
If shit goes down, there's no grocery stores. You're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to learn how to survive. You gotta grow your own shit.
You're gonna have to grow some shit, and you're gonna have to know which things grow at what time, like how soon.
Yeah.
Some things, like you said, the melons are 90 days, but some of these greens, 2-3 weeks in, there's enough for you to eat. They're not gonna be a full plant, but like baby leaves are a big thing. Everyone wants the baby leaves.
Everyone wants baby greens. Yeah.
That's 2-3 weeks. From seed to baby leaves, you're 3 weeks.
There's a lot of protein in those too.
Yeah, that's big thing is microgreens right now too. Everybody's growing these microgreens, so I guess it's like beet greens. It's all kind of beans, bean sprouts. So everybody's growing these things. It takes like 2 or 3 days, and they're cutting them and making money.
And making money.
Harvesting,
Yeah.
Man. And I think that's empowering too, because it's like, man, fuck your grocery store. Nigga, I grow my own shit right here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm taking the power back into your own hands. You know what I mean? And I also find that was dope what you guys are doing too. So and would you encourage more people to try it out? Give it a shot?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it's fun.
Ian was the first one that was really posting pictures of the garden, and he was getting people, encouraging them. Like, and people were like, well, I live in an apartment. He was like, look, throw it in the pot. And that's one of the biggest things that people, that discourages them. Like, I don't have a yard, I don't have enough space. Right. But most things you can grow in a pot. And most things you can grow perennials in San Diego, like tomatoes. What else grows like a perennial in San Diego? It's a lot of things that just because our climate, we can grow all year round.
Right.
Hey, what word did you say? Perennials?
Yeah, perennials.
Oh,
that means it's this is just a year-round plant.
Yeah,
year-round plant. Okay. Hey, I don't know this stuff, so I want to know.
Tomatoes are definitely one of those that you can kind of. I've never really thought about when I want to plant one. I just said throw seeds. This past year I did an heirloom tomato, and those get fat. But the tricky part is they're so good. The bugs and the critters they come.
So you gotta
be paying attention. Like when you think it's ripe, like I like to wait for it to ripe on the vine, at the last moment. But I've learned I have to kind of I'll just cut a piece, a big piece of the vine, and bring it inside, because if I leave it there, I'll come back. Oh, it's gonna be ready in 2 days. Got a hole in it.
Yeah,
and you can tell. And it wasn't no bug. I'm like, dude, this was a mouse or like some rodent. Somebody enjoyed this.
Speaking of rodents, Miss O, everybody knows Miss O. We mean Miss O. Miss O is our teacher from Morris, and we keep in contact with her. She has a garden. She has a problem with squirrels. Squirrels is tearing up all the tomatoes and stuff.
Shout out to Miss O, by the way.
Hey.
And same thing with him. My heirloom tomatoes, things have been tearing them up like the last 2 weeks, and I'm upset about it. So I was doing some research and on organic rodent control, and it seems to find that we have a lot of barn owls in San Diego. Right? And these barn owls, they can eat up to 5 rodents a day. So what people are doing, they're building these barn owl boxes. They're little houses. I think they said it's like 27 pounds is the most they come. And you can hang them in a tree. You have to be 12 to 15 feet high. And if you get a family to nest in there,
you good.
Then they'll eat up to 10 a day. That's like 2,000 a year, I think, what this thing was saying. So I'm going to get out there. Barn owls. Right. I'm going to get out there on Saturday and try to build me a box, man, and throw me up there, because we got a big problem with Oceanside has a huge problem with rats right now. It's
really?
Yeah, it's like an infestation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of newly developed apartments and areas out there, and it pushes out, and they're going to shit.
Definitely.
More food, more this, more people. It's bound to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I have to agree with the owl thing, because the place where I was living before, my great grandfather, there was 2 owls. There was a little owl family. They lived in these palm trees, and my grandparents, when they moved back in there, they cut them down, and they've had gopher problems ever since.
Right.
I would see gophers every now and then. Usually, I would see a gopher. 2 days later, I would see the remains of a gopher.
Wow.
Like the owls would eat them, or the crows. The crows eat everything. And so the crows, I would see, I'm like, dude, I didn't even know crows got down like that. I mean, they just ripping this thing apart. In the middle of the afternoon, I'm sitting on my balcony like, all right, you all can stay. Because, you know, like crows are annoying, but I'm like,
it's a part of the ecology, you know what I mean?
It is
so
definitely.
you know, that's the thing about it. So, man, I find that's pretty dope, man. Just on some other stuff, man. Where can they, I mean, you guys ever thought about doing a YouTube channel or something where you guys spread your guys' knowledge or go on Facebook Live? I know you can do Facebook Live, but like,
yeah, sometime.
You know,
I was thinking about
doing
something with my weed growing.
Oh, do that?
Because I go organic. Everything I do is organic.
Okay.
Everything except the water, which is
kind of tricky. But
it's tricky. I wanted to talk about that. I don't know if you want to touch
go ahead.
it.
Tell us about.
Well, the water.
Tell us about the water
that we're using out the faucet. You know, it already has all kind of stuff in it, but what's really tearing down the microorganisms that's in the dirt is the chloramines and the chlorine. And so you can't just bubble these. Like usually, if it was just chlorine in the water, you can use air stones, or you can leave your water out in the sun for like a day or two, and then you'll bubble the water out and it'll evaporate. But with this chloramine, it's ammonia, and it's attaching to the chlorine, and it's making it hard for it. You can't bubble it out the water, or it doesn't happen through evaporation. So you either got to use an agent to counteract it. Like I think you can use vitamin C, or you have to boil your water. But all that takes too much time. I got a huge garden. I can't, I can't do that. So I have to find a way. They got filters. They got charcoal filters. But yeah, that's what's, and they're saying that can also erode the soil and the land, because nobody knows. It's not a lot of testing on what these chloramines are doing to the soil, but everybody knows that these microorganisms help keep the soil together. So if everybody's using this water on their soil, who knows what it's going to do to the, to the earth later on down the line. So
that's a scary thought. So, I mean, as you as an avid grower of herb, and how do you feel about Attorney General Jeff Sessions trying to repeal that whole marijuana? Like, he trying to like make it illegal again in all 50 states. I mean, I know he's trying to get in your money, your plants, and all that stuff. I know. Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel like they're making a whole lot about nothing. It's a whole lot of other things out there that's considered drugs that are killing people. Alcohol, the opiates, all of
Percocets,
that. Perks, all that crazy stuff, man.
Oxy.
And all of that stuff comes from plants.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realize. All these things are derived from plants. And so if you're getting herb and you're getting
organic
herb, and you're getting the benefits from herbs directly from the plant, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I don't get it. I think Jeff Sessions, man, everybody know he knows what he's trying to do, and everybody that voted for him, everybody that's with that Donald Trump thing, they know. They trying to turn back the hand of time, but
turn your clocks back to 400 years.
Right.
Yeah,
we ain't going for that though. Not in California for sure.
Yeah,
we ain't going for that.
Shout out to Kamala Harris.
I don't know if you guys already mentioned it, but wait, so do you guys like sell your guys' fruits and stuff, or you guys just show off your garden?
I give it a lot. I give a lot away.
Give it
Oh,
away.
you give it away.
What?
Yeah, I give a lot away.
He's like, y'all wasn't gonna say nothing when I said I'm gonna pull up and pay y'all.
I tell people all the time when I post, I'm like, look, a lot of times
I know there's first come first serve, so I'm like,
well, it's not even that. Sometimes I feel like people say they want some stuff, but they never actually pull up.
It sounds good.
Right. They're like, oh, yeah, I want something. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be here. I'll post. I'll be here this days. Or even if I'm not there, just hit me up. I have a lot of free time. So if you want to meet me over there and you want to pick some stuff, cool. Because if you don't, it goes into the compost. Like, I'll take it off. The bugs will put holes in it, or it might get the mildew if it doesn't get pulled off quick enough. And I put it in the compost pile, which, I mean, yeah, it goes back into the soil. So it's benefiting that way. But, yeah, it's just not getting, like, my greens. I had greens so big recently that there was a guy passing through in the alley. He was like, yo, man, what did you growing right there? And he's like, are those greens? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what kind? I'm like, collards. He's like, what? He's like, I'm from the South. I ain't never seen collards that big.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, watering? You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing nothing special. I think people just don't let them get that big, probably.
Yeah.
Most of the time they pull them so quick because they're trying to eat them.
Yeah.
But
So I want to ask you guys, what is your favorite and least favorite thing about urban gardening?
least favorite, pulling weeds.
Remind you of your childhood.
visit.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, the least favorite is I don't like the pruning and the
Right.
maintenance.
It's
I don't like
meticulous.
because you
It can
know
be.
you gotta go in there and you gotta cut down old leaves and you gotta prune the sucklers off the tomato, all those little things. Because I don't. He likes bugs. I like bugs too, but I like them over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Under respectable distance. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
so you know.
Yeah, I like the photographs.
I don't like being in there with the wildlife like that. I mean, I don't mind like roly-polies and all that stuff, but once you have a garden for a while, the spiders and all those things, they come. They know that it's beneficial bugs. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know, bugs they can eat in there. So
Yeah.
you'll catch big spiders, all that stuff. So that's probably the thing.
Man, how big? We talking like?
I mean, I
Like-
think the longer you have your garden, probably the bigger. I mean, the biggest thing you could get here would be a tarantula, but
What?
I mean, they're here.
They're
You don't
here.
see
Yeah,
them
they
that
are
much.
here.
You don't see them
They're
that often
here.
here, but
They're here.
the tarantulas in North America aren't known to be venomous to the where they could hurt you. Like they couldn't kill you. They're venomous to kill you or anything like that. But you can get tarantulas.
They
but,
got
I mean,
trapdoor spiders and stuff.
I
trapdoor
would get
spiders.
killed
Yeah.
because I would have a heart attack. What?
Tell them about the praying mantis, bro.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty fun. Praying mantis is one of the beneficials. It's the kind of bug that they eat everything. They'll eat each other. But
Yeah, the
I-
women, the female, right?
yeah,
Eats the male.
yeah. Well, I mean, they'll just eat each other in general. But I mean, yeah, if when they mate, the female will bite off the male's head, and it's,
No,
yeah,
I'm
that's
cool.
a wrap. That's
Tragic.
part of the process. Like, you know, that's the male mantis dream. Like, get your head bit off and
Yeah.
you know, make babies, I guess. But so this past year, I did it for the first time. I bought like the egg sack. I sent it in, went to City Farmers Nursery. It's like it's literally in the middle of City Heights and Southeast. It's a cool nursery. And so I bought them. They mailed them. Then they call you when they come in the mail. It's a little egg sack about, I don't know, 2 inches long, a half inch or 2 inches wide. And I had it sitting in the jar for a while. Usually you can just set it in your garden. I had it sitting in the jar for a while. And after about a week and a half, one day I walked past it and it just looked like there was an infestation in this jar of like ants. But they weren't. They're babies. And there was hundreds of them in this thing. And I just took them to the garden and I shook them out all over the garden. You shake them
That's
over
where
the
it's
garden.
at.
That's where it's at.
That's where it's at right
Yeah,
there.
you shake them over the garden.
Oh, shit. I
And,
got really itchy. Just thinking about that.
It's cool is because as the over the last month or so, I'll see them now. I don't see as many because if they're depending on the amount of food available, someone will come, someone will go, they'll leave. They can fly.
So you still have them there?
There's some. I
Wow.
see some every now and then, and they change colors. Like they were brown when I had them, and now I see green ones. And like, they're
Dang.
getting more mature. They're green, and they're deep in the plants. Like I'll be pulling like at the base of the plants and pull out something. And I'll see them like, oh snap.
See, that's the only
Camera
reason
out.
I can't do it. How big do they get though? Are they huge?
I
Like if
haven't
they
seen
stay
any
small, I
that
can deal with
big
that.
Yet. Praying mantises can get big, but the kind that I had, I don't think.
Yeah, they
were
look
that
pretty
big.
small. They look.
Yeah,
but I
those were
mean,
little, but they.
Yeah.
The biggest I saw them, might have been about an inch. Maybe.
Okay, yeah, I can deal with
2
something
inches
like
is
that.
the biggest I think I've seen.
Something like this though, because they fly, right?
Yeah, they can fly.
See, I ain't
Yeah.
with that. I ain't with that.
Well, for the listeners, I mean, how can they contact you guys? What's your social handles?
My Instagram is where you'll see most of my gardening. Like, I mean, my Facebook, well, they're both available, but my Instagram is gardening and poetry. So, if you like gardening and poetry, you just like to see what black people do.
Yeah,
My Instagram is
6% of us out here.
right. Ian Charles 2, the number 2. Ian Charles 2. That's my Instagram.
Well, I got Facebook. I haven't been on Instagram in like 2 years.
Man, you gotta start branding yourself,
I
brother.
do. You know what?
You gotta go out there and brand yourself. You know
you're
what
right.
you're doing.
I used to post a lot of weed, so you can catch a lot of my weed on there.
Yeah, just be careful. The feds will watch you
Yeah,
still.
right?
yeah, the feds will still come get you, man.
Right.
Yeah,
And I be seeing helicopters going over. I'm like, damn.
Right.
Because it's legal now. You can grow
Yeah.
weed in your backyard. But I'm still like,
still
I don't
get
know.
leery.
Yeah.
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 But you can. My Instagram is VicBaron69. And then you always hit me up on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm open to that. Victor
On-
Rice.
On Facebook, it's just Ian Moreland. Nothing
All right.
special
All
about
right,
it.
no problem. Well, shit, man. Man, it's about to wrap it up, man. Thank you guys for coming over and
Appreciate it.
enlightening
Thanks
us
for inviting
about urban gardening, and hopefully someone feel empowered and inspired to go ahead and just plant that seed
Yeah,
Definitely.
and watch it grow. You know what I mean? So,
Definitely. Thanks for having us, man.
oh, no
Appreciate it.
problem, no problem. So, man, listeners, make sure you like us on Facebook and leave a review. We want to have a whole community going on. I didn't know on Facebook you could leave reviews and have comments, and other listeners
That's
can
dope.
interact with each other on our Facebook page. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JigIsUpPod. Email us with your questions, comments, or suggestions for topics at jigisuppodcast@gmail.com. Once again, jigisuppodcast@gmail.com. Also hit the website at the Jig Is Up Podcast and be on the lookout for some more articles coming soon. I have 2 contributors so far. They dropped a couple of things here and there, but we're trying to get the writers writing some more so I can go and spread some of their pieces out there, and that's coming from San Diego. So, and that, that comes from anybody who's passionate about whatever they're talking about. And I just want to create a platform for people to go ahead and have their written pieces on there if they don't have any platforms for themselves. So I'm trying to help out with that. So, and also, studio sessions ain't cheap. If you guys would like to, you guys could go ahead and leave a donation on our donation tab on the website. You guys feel free to donate however, how much you feel that this show was of value to you. We appreciate any penny that's thrown in our direction. So, parting words and shout outs, Nessa. Anything?
Wait, I just have a quick question. Sorry.
Okay,
To
question.
both you guys. So, well, I heard kids and gardening, and I work with kids, and we have a garden. So, what are the top 3 things, like real quick, off the top of your head, you think would be the best thing to grow? Because right now we're just growing herbs. So we have rosemary,
Beans.
beans. So
That'd be
that's
fine.
what, just any beans.
You can do pinto beans. You can do white beans, but pinto beans they really do good. I got some beans from my son's kindergarten class that's growing in my house right now. So
That's
beans,
dope. That's dope.
and kids like watching beans grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say?
Top
You said mostly
3.
just herbs,
Oh yeah,
you
we
said?
just have herbs. That's all we have right now.
What kind of
herbs.
space do you guys have?
We just have like some box. I
A
don't
little
know what
box?
any of that stuff is called.
Oh, okay. That's kind of tough in that space. I mean, I would do maybe some greens of some kind because they grow fast. They'll get a chance to see.
Yeah, that's what I was
process
talking about.
quick.
Things that grow fast.
Yeah, well, you could do greens, chard, kale, spinach. Any of those greens, they grow pretty quick.
Okay.
So it'd be fun to see that pop up and they can eat those. And I feel like you might get to eat something. If they grow it, they have more tendency to
Well, we have
try it.
kale
Right.
actually. Yeah, besides the herbs, we have kale. So spinach too. You said
Strawberries
possibly.
too. You can grow strawberries in a
Strawberries
small
are good.
place.
Oh, yeah,
You can grow
but those
strawberries in a
are
small
good.
place.
Yeah, in
But
small
it won't
spaces.
grow a lot of strawberries.
But you can do it.
But
yeah.
you can grow them in a lot. You can put like 2 or 3 plants in a square foot. So yeah.
So, yeah, man.
Yeah, shout out to you guys for
Yeah,
coming.
that's what I was about to say.
Alright.
Shout out to you guys for coming in and enlightening us about this.
Yeah.
And
I
you
learned
know,
a lot today.
I've been wanting to talk to you guys about this on the podcast for a long time because I've been watching, know, and I'll just be like, man, this is really dope. I think this is something that people could, some information that could be used. So that's how I felt about it.
Cool.
But yeah, man. Any shout outs for you guys? You guys any parting words? Any friends you want to acknowledge? Anyone who may be listening?
Shout out to Black Expression, my
Okay.
poetry community squad. They're the first ones to kind of put me on, that kind of, I guess, a platform because I wasn't checking for it. They were just like, "Yo, you should do a garden feature." I'm like, "What? At a poetry spot?" They're like, "Yeah, let's do it." All right.
Have you ever been to Queen Bee's?
Yes. For the lyrical exchange or the slam.
The slam.
The slam. Yeah. Matter of fact, you mentioned the National Poetry Slam team. We're actually in Colorado right now. They're representing San Diego. The last couple of years, we've been to the final stage, like top 4, top 2, and so this year they're looking to take the title.
Take it back
That's
home.
what's up.
Title, yeah, it'll be
That's
awesome.
dope. That's where I think I heard from Black Expression.
Mm.
They were at the Poetry Slam last month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what, because remember I was talking
Yeah.
about that, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was like, that sounds so familiar. That
I need
was
to get out more,
dope.
man. I need to get out more, man.
Yeah, you gotta go out more, man. You gotta go out there.
Them
and
4
let-
kids, man, keep me at home, man.
Right,
True,
Yeah.
true.
My daughter's 13, so
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. She
ain't ready for the
when
world.
when she wants to. I have to call her to schedule me in. Yo, can we hang out? Like, so it's a little different. Yeah.
So shout out to your children.
So what's up with you, Vic, man?
Shout out to my kids. I love all you guys. Special shout out to my oldest stepdaughter, Mariah. She lost her grandmother recently, so she's having a rough time. But she's a strong kid. Hang in there. I love you, baby girl.
Hey,
All
what's
right.
up?
But man, that wraps it up, listeners. This is the bonus episode, and to close it out, all I got to say, if you enjoy listening to this podcast as much as we love making it, because we do what we love and love what we do, and if you're not being your, I ain't gonna, it's my show. If you're not being your motherfucking self, you know what I got to say.
The jig is up.
And we out.
That's dope. Now I'm hungry. Talking about fruits and all that good stuff. I want food.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was.
That
I'm
was
like,
cool. Oh, you put up here?
that was different.
Oh,
you know what?
yeah, I just saw
That was cool, man.
Yeah, I'm like, that's
Thanks
new.
for
I
coming,
like
you
that.
guys.
Oh, man, no problem.
I'm looking forward to having it on Monday, the beginning of the